there were many times, but I specifically remember the first time I was sitting in the chair hearing Andy sing my lyrics that I wrote. Favorite voices I've ever heard singing my lyrics that came from my heart, and just like being so overwhelmed and chills all over my body and just being like, I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Hello, this is Luke Spiller and welcome to Enemies, Friends Like These.
Hey, this is Paris Jackson and welcome to Enemies, Friends Like These.
I guess we, first started, quote, formally collaborating towards, was it the beginning of this year?
Yeah, it was. You slid into my DMs because I commented how chic you looked because your fashion sense is so much better than mine, which is funny because that's like my job. And you slid into my DMs and you're like, let's collaborate. And I was like, are you sure? Because my music hadn't been out yet. So there wasn't really much for you to like reference. I was like, how does he know if I'm good at all? Like, are you sure you want a rookie and amateur like me?
Well, that's exactly why I thought it would kind of be, like I remember we spoke about to begin with, that it'd just be a really kind of interesting thing to be doing. And the most importantly as well is that I felt like it wouldn't be forced, because you know what it's like sometimes in this business, especially when it comes to kind of things like these. You get put with people get sort of like recommended and all this kind of stuff. But what I really was excited about was like, we already knew of each other to like an extent and had like mutual like respect. And I knew that's what was going to sort of like ultimately lead to something that was organic and what's the word I'm looking for? Something that you would like to sort of be known for, really, or anyone is it's sort of like being true. I don't even remember really like where we first met. I remember I would go to a couple of like few parties in LA, and you were quite the magician. You would sort of appear out of nowhere and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" And then 3 seconds later, you'd be gone. You'd be disappeared into thin air.
I never stay at those functions for too long. I like the Irish exit thing.
Yeah.
Because goodbye is always, especially if I like know a good amount of people at wherever it is we are, just going around and saying bye, it was so good to see you, just it adds another hour to the thing. Yeah. So like, I always want to chat a little bit more. So I kind of just like disappear. And then, the people that I really want to talk to, I'll shoot them a text like, hey, it was so good seeing you, this, that, the other. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of like big social events. So I'm usually in and out.
Yeah, you can't be a good Irish goodbye. It's fairly self-explanatory, and there's no really sort of like deep meaning behind it. But when I forwarded you the song originally, like what did it make you feel, and what was your initial kind of thoughts?
I thought it was really fun. I thought it was a really big change from what I'm used to doing, which is always good. And it's so I knew it would be really great to do because I do respect you as a person and as a musician, and I knew collaborating with you would be great. But I also, as a musician myself, I knew that starting out, because I just released my debut album, and then right after that, having released a few music videos and then doing something completely different from the album, I knew would be really great to not typecast myself or like put myself into like one genre. And then the next thing I'm going to release is completely different from either of the two things. And then the thing after that is going to be completely different as well. So I knew it was going to be fun, like venturing out and trying all different kinds of things.
I mean, it's important. I mean, funny enough, is exactly the reason why myself and the rest of the group came to basically like realize this song. Was we'd done 2 albums. I get the feeling that people have kind of got me figured out, and it's, oh yeah, this is what they're going to do next, and this is what they're going to be talking about. Just almost taking a complete left turn, and surprising not just like the audience but also yourself. And I think this song's really done that in a really sort of like genuine way. It's a bit cutesy, but it's still got like an edge to it, which I'm really kind of proud of. And after I saw your Instagram story today when you were listening to the Struts with your leg out the window driving the Jeep.
Yeah, I've gotten pulled times for that, so I had to stop doing that. I became a fan like as soon as I saw you guys perform. Like I didn't know about you guys, and we've talked about it before. Like I saw you guys open up for Motley Crue, who I'm a massive fan of, and you guys completely blew everyone away. And ever since then, I'd like just like listen to you guys' music, add them to playlists, and it's just really cool that like 4 or 5 years after my brother, who was in the car with me, took that video, our own video came out.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Well, that was a bit of a conundrum, wasn't it, Paris? We couldn't have picked like a more difficult time to, you know, do this collaboration, but then on top of that, doing a video as well is just kind of such a difficult thing to do unto itself. But I'm actually really pleased how it all kind of came out, and I was a bit skeptical because, you know, you and I both know, Paris, there was like 2 or 3, even maybe like 4 different like treatment ideas. I kind of loved how kind of classic and simple it kind of came out in the end. But what was shooting with Bryson? I haven't even really spoken to you since you shot your bits, but, you know, was he kind to you? You know,
He was very sweet. He was very kind. Was very mindful about, you know, if I was comfortable or not. And I mean, the whole experience was pretty rad. Like I got to wear like super awesome like vintage couture clothes, which was so sick. Like in the full body shot, I'm wearing like a vintage Dior dress, which was like super fun for me. And yeah, the makeup was fun. The vibe was fun. It was super easy. There wasn't too many people on set, which is always really great for me. If there's like 50 people on set, I do get pretty anxious.
do you enjoy doing videos?
I do. I do. I'm in Ohio right now, and I'm going to film a music video for some friends tomorrow. And I mean, I've only done 2 or 3 music videos for myself and my own music, but I've been doing music videos for friends for a few years now. It's always really fun. It's funny, I've had to cry in most of my music videos, which I was joking with my manager about. But for the video I did for Jared, that was I did need some menthol blown in my eyes for that because I didn't have anything to really go off of. But for my own videos, for my music, I write from experience and I write from my heart. So the lyrics are tied to real life stories. It was very easy to get to that place and to cry on camera for that because I was still definitely feeling all of those feelings when I filmed those videos.
Paris, what are you working on now?
I'm working on a couple of things that are very different from the single that we did together and the record that I just did a few months ago. One of the projects is going to be more intense, and another one is going to be very simple.
When you say intense, like how so? You talking about musicality or like tempo or flavor? Like, you know,
All of the,
all of
all
it.
of, yeah.
Wow. You're not going to come out with some psychedelic drum and bass record, are you?
I cannot. I will send it to you, and you can tell me what.
Yes, yes. I hope I just didn't ruin the surprise and you're going to release a psychedelic drum and bass record.
I'm not confirming nor denying. But I think we're thinking maybe end of May, end of the month, we might release something else. Did you like how people responded to that?
It was very mixed, and I think for good reason. I mean, looking back on it now, sort of like having lived with it since last year, compared to the previous 2 albums that we did, it was a great album, but for completely different reasons. I think it was our strongest body of work as like quote like a proper album where the production was completely consistent, the sound was completely coherent, and there's a vibe to it, and there's a real kind of flow. It probably musically wasn't the strongest album that we've done, but I think it was a great way for all four band members to really be in a room together and create something completely from the ground up, which was something that we'd never done before. So creatively, it was very satisfying. Some people really thought it was the best thing that we had done. Others thought it was like completely average and meh. It was important that we tried something else, because I wasn't going to sort of just sit in studios time and time again, just trying to come up with another, Young and Dangerous and Everybody Wants, and just like single after single after single. This was a record that really kind of breathes. And yeah, I think it was a great experience, but definitely divided a lot of people, which I'm happy about. I'd rather be Marmite than, everybody just sort of like buying into it and saying, yeah, it's great, because without dividing opinions, you don't really get talked about. What's our favorite track by each other? The first one was Eyelids, which, I mean, it's a moody song, but I think with songwriting, there's a real art to create like a genuine atmosphere, if that makes any sense. Like certain songs that you hear, you might connect with like the lyric more than the music, or vice versa. But with like this song, it kind of has everything in it. It creates like, I know it's good when I can sort of picture things in my head and it takes me somewhere, and that song did that. And another one as well was Scorpio Rising. Like that was
Really?
yeah, completely. Like what grabs me straight away was the chords, the really gentle piano line that's going over it. It's like, it's kind of like unsettling, but it really kind of like draws you in. It's kind of like, ooh, like, and you're like, okay, musically it does work, but it makes you sort of like get on the edge of your seat. And I just loved it. That to me I could see Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds like doing a song like that, like that real poetic, moody, atmospheric, So I love that one as well. So I can't pick one. I'd have to pick those two as like
Thank you. You have no idea how much that means to me. That was really the goal with Scorpio Rising. The words that came to my mind was, I want this to be unsettling. I want this to be creepy. I want this to make people uneasy, because I believe art is supposed to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. And that was like the main goal. And I just remember reading this one article that talked about it, and it used all of those words. But I think the writer was like not happy with the song, and the writer didn't like it, but they used all of the words that I was going for. I just had the biggest smile on my face. I was so excited. I screenshot it. I sent it to like 3 friends, and I was like, I did it. Yeah. I made them uneasy. I creeped them out. And that was just like the main goal with Scorpio Rising. And thank you for that. My favorites for you are, I mean, definitely Kiss This and Could Have Been Me are like tied. I don't want to be like that girl who's like, yeah, I love Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit, and like names like their biggest song, right? But those two are tied for number one, because they're so amazing. And those are the ones that I always had like on repeat when I would listen to you guys and like, geek out. But instrumentally, like when it comes to arrangement and when it comes to just like the overall sound of a song, Merry Go Round was fucking so good, dude. Especially just like the melody of the guitar, the melody of everything. It's very, very well written.
Thank you. No, I mean, that means a lot. Personally, I'm a big sort of fan of Merry Go Round as well. I think the production is just phenomenal. That was with Marty Fredriksson, who's worked with like Aerosmith, and when I mention that, you can hear it. He did Jaded with them, which is probably like the most notable song that he's done with them. He was just absolutely incredible. And a lot like Low Key in Love, that song literally fell out of the sky. It was myself, Adam, and Marty sat around in a smoking area in an old studio in Santa Monica somewhere. And it just, yeah, Adam, Marty both had like the acoustic guitars, and then we just started writing, and it was probably done in about an hour and 20 minutes.
Wow.
But I love the way it kind of, when it hits the chorus, it feels like it kind of key
Yeah.
change and lifts and stuff. But no, thank you. I'm glad you liked that one.
Especially the instrumental part that really like caused me to have like a visceral reaction in the same way that like certain Def Leppard songs like Hysteria or Love Bites, where it's just like, oh, like it just like makes me like physically react to it and kind of like move back a little bit and like actually like physically feel it, which is, it's very rare that a song can make me do that, because like I am such a like music fiend that I'm constantly searching for the next song that will like cause me to physically feel it.
Mm.
And so I've become very desensitized because I've listened to so much music just in the last 23 years and like constantly searching for new stuff. So that sweet spot in the instrumental section is amazing.
Thank you very much. So, Paris, what's the biggest misconception that people have about you?
Probably that I am a bitch that has good days, when really it's just like I think I'm really good and nice and I have bitchy days. A lot of people have actually told me this, like maybe like 20 minutes into getting to know me, or a few weeks into getting to know me, or a few years, where just like, yeah, when I first met you, I thought you were going to be a bitch. Like I thought you were going to be like a spoiled brat, which, you know, it is really nice to know that I'm not, because usually people bring that up to tell me that I'm not. But
Yeah.
it does suck having to kind of combat that preconceived notion of how I'm going to be. And I feel like I may have to try a little bit harder to show people that I am not that way. But also at
Mm.
the same time, you know, what people think of me is none of my business.
Yeah. But I mean, I wouldn't beat yourself up about it, because I think I think it comes with the territory. And I think people get kind of intimidated with certain people that have like, a certain amount of spotlight on them. I think it's only human nature, you know.
Yeah, and you guys have to deal with that a lot
Mm.
more. The UK, I've noticed, at least with over here in the States, tabloids and you know, journalists, they're a lot more subtle
Mm.
about their detestment. You
Mm.
know, the tall poppy syndrome is way more subtle, whereas like in the UK and places like Australia, the tabloids and the journalists will outright call you an asshole, will
Yeah.
outright like degrade you and attack your integrity, and they're very blatant about it.
The UK loves to sort of, I wouldn't even use the word glamorize, but they love controversy. They love to just sort of, when it comes to music, they love to talk more about the exploits of the artist or band or whoever, more so than the music itself. And it's a shame, but I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. It's
It could just be as simple as bright lights attract everything. You know, like a porch light is going to attract moths and spiders and mosquitoes and all kinds of like good and bad things. Light attracts everything, good and bad.
yeah.
So, and when you are a musician, I believe making true, honest music and, you know, letting your light shine, it will attract all kinds of things.
The biggest misconception people have about me is that I get people who genuinely think that I've never been told that I have a resemblance to Freddie Mercury ever. And it's something that it's something that myself and a couple, like the band, kind of joke about
Mhm.
quite a lot. And I know the score. It's not, I know that I haven't done myself like any favors in the past. I mean, the truth was I had this kind of haircut years and years ago, and it was blonde or mousy brown with blonde highlights, because of that reason, because I didn't sort of like want to get kind of too close to Freddie. And I remembered that I had it cut completely short for reasons that were at the time completely beyond me, and I dyed it black, and of course it grew out. I had to keep dyeing it black, and then I got the same cut.
You do definitely have those features, but especially when you're performing, it's this beautiful fuse of Mick Jagger and Freddie Mercury, and like when you get on stage, you really own the stage, and it's the difference between being like just a musician, which is a gift in itself, but to also have the gift of being a performer and a true frontman. That combination doesn't really happen as often as it should, I think, and it is very beautiful to see.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm blushing now. Paris, what was your first ever live show like?
My cousin does this thing called the Canyon Sessions, which is just this beautiful little get together of all sorts of musicians that do all sorts of things. Some are like people that play the harp. Some people do amazing like R&B, soul, and there's the folk artists, and it's really just like a beautiful congregation of all walks of the musical life, and mostly hippies. And it's kind of just like a safe space for musicians to get together and kind of demonstrate their latest stuff that they're working on, kind of try it out and see how people respond to it, so then they can take it out into the world. And it's really cool, like different people will go on and do a little set, and then at the very end of the night, we all like get together and like just jam, which is just so much fun. It's always in someone's backyard.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, it's a cute little. Tops like 50 people at most.
And how did you do? Did you do well?
For my first show, I think I did all right. I'm sure if I looked back on one of the videos and watched it again, I would just be so embarrassed and like get a complex about it. But I feel like that's normal, and that's what happens. The more you perform, the more you get used to it, and the stronger you become, much like everything else in life. The anxiety isn't really there as much anymore, and it's all I perform now.
I remember my first gig was with my old school band. It was in this place in Bristol called the Croft. It was this beautiful dive of a venue where you walk in and the floors are all sticky. And in the UK, you can actually perform. I think it's about 16 in most places with like the right kind of license. I remember we managed to get like alcohol from the bar, and like half of like our school came down, and the girls' school came down as well. So it was like pretty.
You got like best night ever. You got to show off. You had a few drinks, girls.
It was great, and I had an outfit that I made. With like, I got an old top and I like cut the front section of it off, and I made like these big sleeves and everything, and we played. I remember we did a cover of AC/DC TNT to like open up, and it was great, and someone actually filmed it. And like I remember there was probably I saw it probably like 7 years ago. And I could see like the really early stages of like what I would start doing live. I tried to do like this back and forth like call and response thing, which was not working like whatsoever. But and a couple of wardrobe malfunctions. But yeah, it was great. It was great. And then after that, I remember going to bed and like my ears just like ringing and just being like, wow, like I want to do that again and again and again, great feeling.
That is the best feeling. That's happened a few times for me, not just performing, but just being in the studio, and especially when I was recording my album, because I was able to do that. I was so lucky and blessed enough to be able to do that with my heroes, the guys from Manchester Orchestra. And there were many times, but I specifically remember the first time I was sitting in the chair hearing Andy sing my lyrics that I wrote. Like one of my favorite voices I've ever heard singing my lyrics that came from my heart, and just like being so overwhelmed and chills all over my body, and just being like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. This is so like just pure joy and happiness.
So growing up, Paris, What what music were you listening to?
Oh man, everything, everything. It's so great, coming from a musical family because like while most of the people I listen to all the time now more like affect my music and influence me in a more obvious way. Like I listen to so much Manchester Orchestra that the way I pronounce certain words when I sing kind of sounds like Andy.
Yeah.
But being raised in a musical family around all kinds of music, like I have so many other influences from jazz to hip hop to R&B to movie soundtracks, classical music, all of the Motown stuff, mainly the Beatles, Frank Sinatra. Like we really listen to everything, and even like radio's top 40. Like we were exposed to so much music growing up, and like that's just something that money can't buy. Like that is just so special. What about
Yeah.
you?
Well, I mean, honestly, I had almost kind of like the reverse. Yeah, and it wasn't any fault of my parents like whatsoever. It was just, my dad back then was a lot more kind of active in the church and led the praise and worship. So, the first music I was really kind of exposed to was really like gospel music, the live band playing at church. It wasn't until I was about 12, 13, started obviously listening to like your dad, like, well, was like obsessed. And then from that, I've always been someone who, once I find an artist or a band, I then go really kind of deep into everything that has either influenced them or things that have kind of like been around it. So obviously after that, I was then heavily like into Motown, everything on that, Stevie Wonder, James Brown, and the rock thing at the time when I was getting to my early teens was a lot of the pop punk stuff and the new metal, like it was either loving Green Day, Blink-182, Korn, Slipknot, Limp Bizkit. I didn't really mind any of it, but nothing resonated with me in particular. And then, I then eventually found Queen, which
Mm.
was, a big moment for me. And then I went on to become obsessed with AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, and the Beatles, and then now like the Stones are just that's my I almost listen to the Stones probably like 2 or 3 times a day, whether I'm just sort of like walking around or on a run or something like that. But yeah, early on it was a lot of your dad and a lot of Motown and a lot of James Brown and my dad's own music as well. That was always going around. His is like country gospel music, if you can sort of like picture that.
Yeah. It's great. All of the things that you've listed, I can hear those influences in your music, but it's still original, which is also very difficult to do.